What's up, y'all? How are you? Happy Monday to you. Sorry it took me a couple of seconds to get to you. Once the countdown screen started, I didn't realize that it stopped. But anyway, I'm here now. What's going on? Welcome to your May 3rd, 2021 edition of the Monday Night Raw review. And this show was, I don't know. It wasn't bad, although it kind of started off not too fun. There was a bunch of shit on the show that I found utterly ridiculous, and a lot of it was a waste of time, which has been the norm in the past few months here on Monday Night Raw. But we did get some interesting news tonight. We got a debut. WrestleMania Backlash has taken shape. It's now headlined by basically 2 triple threat matches. And, a few other news and notes to get into as well. So I guess Raw wasn't a total waste. They did do a couple of things tonight that I thought was different and then did set something up and, piqued a little bit of minor interest in me. But for the most part, typical Raw. And, I don't know. I guess I'd probably say it's better than last week for sure. Even we got AJ and Omos back tonight too. So there were some, noteworthy things on the show. But overall, it was your typical WWE Monday Night torture that we've been going through for the past, I don't know how long here. And, tonight wasn't that much different. But we do have a fair amount to talk about tonight because we had 2 title matches. And like I said, debut, returns, things like that. Good amount of stuff to get into tonight. So I want to say hello to all of you that are here in the chat as well, waiting for me. Like Melissa and like Ryan and Real American, JJ Leg, George Morris is here with the $5. Hey, Greg, how are you? Raw 0 out of 10. Fell asleep. I'm sick of the same matches over and over again. Same boring creative on Melrose Place is better. That's true. A lot of this stuff, we see that every week on Raw. We see matches and rematches, and even tonight at the end of the main event, as soon as it was over, Corey Graves is like, and I just got word in my earpiece from Adam Pearce that next week it's going to be Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. They knew all along what they were going to do here, so it's the same shit. Even the opener tonight, the tag team title match, which was a WrestleMania rematch, but they didn't even bother to do a different match. It was the same exact match with Omos got tagged in, beat the shit out of both New Day guys, and they retained, and that was it. So they didn't even have it, they didn't even spice things up very much in opportunities where they could have. Probably one of the biggest noteworthy things to come out of the show tonight is the now official return of Eva Marie. Now, Eva Marie was rumored to come back last year. We had heard about this for months. We were assuming she'd be back at some point, but I think we all thought she would have been back way before this. So when she didn't return and she wasn't back at the Royal Rumble, we kind of forgot about her. Well, they ran a vignette for her tonight, so she is, in fact, going to be coming back, and it's going to be this, like, evolution type of gimmick or whatever, kind of silly. And, a lot of fans, it was funny, too, when she came back, not only was Eva Marie trending, but all of the recently released women were trending as well. Mickie James and Chelsea Green, specifically, and Peyton Royce and Billy. They got all of their names trending because they released some pretty good, decent female talent, and then, bringing back in Eva Marie, which I think has always been the plan for months. But, it's kind of hard when I wasn't a big fan of her anyway. And like a lot of people have opinions on this on Twitter. Some people are like, oh, you don't understand. Hot women get attention. Yeah, I know, but there's plenty of hot women in WWE. I don't think she's any hotter than some. I don't, she's got a little bit more of that social media influency shit that people like or whatever, but I don't consider her to be anything that's really going to draw more eyes to the women's division, hot or not. To me, that's silly. So the last time she was there, she seemed a little bit in over her head, not really capable of doing a whole lot in the ring. And then just when they started to do stuff with her and get her some heat with that voiceover guy and all the shit they were doing, and she wouldn't wrestle, then she went away, and then she was gone, and, it never picked up. So maybe we get a chance to kind of see that follow through now, but really in terms of like what she can bring to the table, not a goddamn thing. So I don't really care that she's back at all, but it sparked a whole lot of debate, and it sparked a whole lot of anger too. I'm not mad that she's back. I just think it's stupid that she's back. We don't need her back. She's not needed. I'd much rather keep Chelsea Green and not have Eva Marie, but that's just me. But in terms of being mad about it, and I just saw a tweet because I made a funny comment about that, on Twitter, and Antoine, he's like, we cry too much about this stuff. I think there's a difference between crying and like pointing out a very obvious and valid point, which is, why cut a lot of women that have great potential in order to bring someone in that you might think is a name, is going to draw more attention, but in the end, it's not. What are they going to do with her? She's going to get a ton of heat if she wins the title and shit. Maybe they want to put her there to get some of the heat off Charlotte. Maybe it's designed to do that. Because I'll tell you what, you put Eva Marie and Charlotte in the ring together, that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how the crowd acts and how they react to that. Because they want to hate Charlotte, but then again, I think even the most jaded audience member might be picking her over Eva Marie if it ever came down to that. And imagine if Eva Marie does win the title or something, and she beats an Asuka or she beats a Rhea Ripley or somebody that the fans kind of appreciate or respect more. Yikes. So we'll see what happens with the future of Eva Marie. There's no word on yet when she's going to come back, so I guess what we'll get is multiple weeks of these vignettes before she makes her official debut. But even when she does, what are we going to see? We never really did truly help me out. What happened last time? It was like she was doing the thing where she'd come in the ring and wrestle, and then something would happen, wardrobe malfunction or something would happen and she couldn't wrestle, right? And I don't think they ever got the payoff where she had to wrestle, unless I just don't remember, because it wasn't that memorable. So I don't know if they're going to try to do that same thing again, where, in her vignette tonight, she was alluding to the fact that she's coming back to where all this started, and there's an evolution. It looks so goddamn dumb. She's laying on a car. So we'll see. We'll see what Eva Marie brings. I don't... this doesn't bother me to the point where I'm not going to rant and rave. I'm like, oh, what a travesty. They bring her in. They're bringing her in. At the end of the day, I don't give a fuck really what they do. It just seems a little bit ludicrous to me, from a logic perspective, that you would cut loose a lot of women and probably are, they're not paying Eva Marie underneath money, So that's another thing. And I'm like, where do they think? What are they looking for here? Sometimes I just don't get it. But anyway, Eva Marie's back. Yippee. That was probably the biggest news coming out of the show tonight. Other than that, we got Diet Vodka in the house. We got Barry with a $5 super chat as well. What would be the first thing? What would be the worst thing for WWE to add Charlotte to into your actual life? I kind of don't get that question, but yeah, they can add Charlotte to my life. Sure, I don't care. Diet Vodka's here, like I said. Michael, Ryan, Steven, J. Lambo, Atomic. Right on. Okay, yeah, so there was no payoff. She just kept avoiding matches and then left the company, okay? So then now they're bringing her back. I don't think they would just attempt to do this again. They're probably going to do something a little bit different with her, but they did really hold off her actually getting in the ring and working. So, when she gets in there, I just don't know. She's like she reminds me of like a diva era person, she's like a Candice Michelle, who actually was decent, but there's a lot of these, just models they brought in for looks. Tori Wilson, as much as we love her, she couldn't work, and neither could a lot of them. So we will see, but at the same time, you might need a character like that. You might need somebody that the WWE knows the fans are going to reject, because the fans are all about, oh, we want our wrestlers to be, good in-ring workers and stuff. And when you start pushing somebody who isn't, they usually get pissed off about that. So this is a good way to they might be bringing her in just to get the heat off of Charlotte. That might actually not be that far-fetched of an idea. If they can keep cramming Eva Marie down our throats, suddenly Charlotte doesn't look so bad. So don't rule something like that out either, that there might be like a bigger game at play here, because it's not as dumb as the WWE is. They don't have to try very hard to manipulate the fans. They're pretty good at it. And, that's probably all it would take is for them to make her kind of the, public enemy number one of the women's division. We'll see. It'll be interesting when she debuts, if they're going to actually announce her debut like next week she gets in the ring, or if it's going to be like a surprise type of deal, maybe like the Narcissist at Royal Rumble 93. They'll bring her out like that, standing in front of a mirror or something. I don't know. Either way, we'll keep our eye on it. Thomas, good to see you, man. Appreciate the $5. WWE fired Mickie James and the Iconics to bring back Eva Marie. WWE sucks. Yeah, that's been the general opinion. Eva Marie might have been brought back prior to this. She might have been under contract for a while, or at least in talks, because we did hear about this months and months and months and months ago. So I don't think it was the fact that they released them in order to hire Eva Marie. I think Eva Marie was coming in whether these releases happened or not, but the timing of it makes it seem that way, and that's why you're seeing a lot of that same opinion on Twitter. I agree with it's ludicrous that they're not in the company and Eva Marie is, but it's definitely not a situation where WWE cut them so they could hire her. That's not what happened. But the fact that they find more value in her, than somebody like Mickie James, who if they would just let wrestle and have a few more programs before she retires, she might be open to becoming an agent or a producer or a trainer in NXT. Same thing with Chelsea Green, who's, got a great character and could do a lot of fun things, and her and the Iconics, their whole lives are ahead of them still. But anyway, it's Eva Marie is what WWE thinks is going to help when, it's not the talent, it's the use of the talent. That's the problem. But anyway, we'll get into more of it because we'll be talking about that segment here in a little bit as we get into the match-by-match results here. What's going on, Casey? Greetings from North Kakalaki. Oh, okay. So if they'd add her to my videos and she'd make me. Yeah, I guess. Oh, yeah. I guess I didn't really think about that. I'm sure. Also, a lot of people are mad about Charlotte being added to Backlash, but when it comes to Charlotte, I really don't care. I understand that Charlotte, there's legitimate problems with her booking sometimes, but much like Roman Reigns, the fans are so up their own asses about her. I'm going to instinctively now tend to defend the decisions with Charlotte only because the anger and the outrage is so over the top that it's almost dumber than what WWE is doing. So yes, there are certain times when I think Charlotte is shoehorned into matches or put into positions where she shouldn't be, but not all the time. And the problem now is anytime Charlotte gets a match of any kind, of any significance, fans have that same reaction, no matter what, whether it's bad or good, whether it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. They have the same reaction every time, just to reject it no matter what. Reject, 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 reject. So I can't look at it that way because I have a little bit more critical thinking ability than that. So yes, sometimes Charlotte has no place being in a match, and then sometimes she does. And with this one, I'm all right with it based on the fact that she was going to be involved in the title match at WrestleMania before all that other shit happened. So she was already in that mix. She had come out on TV and challenged Asuka. It's not super far-fetched that she would get this match at Backlash. It's, oh, this doesn't make sense. Yes, it makes a lot of sense because this is what they were doing prior to WrestleMania. All they're doing is picking up where they left off there. Now that last year, or I'm sorry, WrestleMania 35, that's a situation where the fans are right. I don't think Charlotte needed to be in that Becky and Ronda match, but WWE just couldn't resist. They had to have the Queen in there. You know, that's a situation where they forced her in. But there's other situations when they don't do that. So I think fans are just going to naturally reject it without thinking it through first. And that's why I just can't listen to too many criticisms about Charlotte. So with this specific situation with her, doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me. Don't care. Anyway, before we get into the Raw results, though, a couple of things I want to mention. I'm going to be watching both of these documentaries tonight. I have not seen either one. But as soon as I'm done, I'm going to check out the Two Dudes with Attitudes. I think it's the Icon Show, I think. Is it the Icon Show? I forgot what one it is. It's on Peacock right now. A lot of good reviews there. And I loved the Two Dudes with Attitudes, so that should be fun. And I'm going to check out the Randy Savage A&E biography from last night that has been just panned by everyone online. Holy shit, does this sound like a stinker? It sounds like it's, 75% bullshit. Seems like somewhat of a burial or a hit job on Randy Savage. They made Piper seem like a drug-addicted mess in the last one, and apparently they're not too kind to Savage here either. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm okay. Let me just poop something here. There we go. I thought I shut my mic off. I did not. So anyway, they kind of painted Savage and Piper out to be, these really, and a lot of it they were, but it seems like they made them look a lot worse than they made Austin look. Where they were kind to Austin. Austin talked about his overuse of caffeine, but not too much other stuff. Some of his problems with the police and some situations that happened with him. And I haven't seen the Savage one yet, but based on what I saw from everybody else, it's just loaded with a lot of bullshit. And apparently Hulk Hogan is a really big part of this biography, which sucks because I am extremely uncomfortable when Hogan speaks of anyone who's passed away, because he's already 99.8% full of shit with everything he says. And to hear him talk about how close him and Randy Savage were, my skin was fucking crawling at the Hall of Fame. When he inducted the Macho Man, I felt gross. I felt dirty. I felt like this was a disgrace to the Macho Man to let this fucking asshole induct him when Savage wanted nothing to do with him, couldn't stand him, hated his guts. And Hogan's up there, we were closest brothers. No, you weren't. He hated you. And to see him now on this show talk so in depth about Randy Savage is going to be tough to watch. And Bubba the Love Sponge is on this apparently. And the biggest glaring inaccuracy that they hit us with apparently in this Savage thing that I can't wait to watch is that Jerry the King Lawler apparently in the biography says that when Savage jumped to WCW, he was the one that informed Vince McMahon of this. He said Vince was walking around. I can't believe they fucking let this air. He said Vince was walking around backstage at Raw looking for Randy Savage, and then Lawler shows him a video of Savage on WCW Saturday Night, and that's how Vince found out. That's incredible that it's not even, you don't even have to do that much research to know that's horseshit. Yeah, I mean, how do they let that air? You know, especially when they know wrestling fans are going to watch this and say, fuck you. That's not the way it happened. As a matter of fact, before Savage even appeared, weeks and weeks before, maybe not weeks and weeks, but definitely weeks prior to Savage even appearing on WCW Saturday Night, Vince McMahon gave him a send-off on Raw, a very angry one. You could tell, you could see it in Vince's eyes that, you know, that he was not happy about that, but he knew damn well what Randy Savage was doing because Randy Savage told him, I'm going to WCW because they're going to pay me $10 trillion and I can wrestle and not work at all and work like part-time and all this shit. So I'm going there, unfortunately. So Vince knew. He knew Savage was going there. We all knew Savage was going there. I knew Savage was going there, and I was in fucking high school. So I just think that's absurd that they would that Jerry Lawler would blatantly tell that lie when that's just simply not the way it went down. So anyway, I'm probably going to watch that tonight and get super irritated with it. So I'll let you guys know any of my thoughts later on in the week when we do videos. It's still up in the air if I'm going to be able to be up here for Blood and Guts doing a review. I'm not going to know that really until tomorrow, but if not, you'll hear from me before the week's end because we got the Winged Eagle podcast coming up on Friday. Also, big news, Andrade has challenged Kenny Omega for Triple Mania. No date on Triple Mania yet. I think normally that's a July or August type of deal, or late summer, I think, is when they hold that. So it's going to be a ways off, and it probably will fall after Andrade's match with Alberto Del Shithead on July 31st, assuming that Del Rio is not convicted of all the shit he's going to be on trial for. So a couple of interesting news tidbits there I thought I'd touch on before we get into Raw. But thank you to everybody that also gave me your feedback and everything on the Randy Savage stuff from last night. I appreciate it. And thank you to all of you who were here last night for the ECW One Night Stand Watch Along. That was fun. One Night Stand 2005. We watched that together. Bloody, gory. Hadn't seen that in years. Very cool. So it was fun to hang out with you guys and do that last night. Let's knock out a couple more of these super dupers, and then we'll get into the Raw results. Deshaun is back. Thank you, man, for the $2. Brother, tell me about it. Jesus, can they hammer that WrestleMania Backlash shit into our head any harder? I just can't wait for this pay-per-view to come and go so we can be done with this nonsense. Yeah, they're why just Backlash? Backlash was so perfect. Backlash is a 22-year-old pay-per-view. All of a sudden, you're changing the name now. Idiots. Oh, my God. Domination Warrior, appreciate $2 from you, man. Greetings from North Carolina. A couple of NC folks. Where are y'all from? I know Casey said hello earlier. We got another one from Domination Warrior. I'm a beach guy. I don't know if you guys are mountain people, central North Carolina, or beach people like me. Good to see you, man. What's your favorite year of Raw? I'd probably say 98. Went to a lot of shows in 98. And just remember that time period well. Other than that, probably 2000 was also extremely fun. And I went to a lot of shows that year, too. It's probably a tie, 98 or 2000. Tomas, 5 more from you. Appreciate that. For a pay-per-view called WrestleMania Backlash, they are sure having a lot of WrestleMania rematches on Raw and SmackDown. Made Mania feel less special. A lot of times, WrestleMania Backlash does have WrestleMania rematches. It does. I mean, this goes all the way back to the beginning. Austin and Rock. Same thing. Triple H and The Rock was kind of a rematch in 2000. And also, a more recent memory with, didn't Benoit and Triple H and Shawn do the match again? So I don't mind the rematches. I don't want the whole card to be rematches, though. But, you know, back in the day, too, after WrestleMania, when they would do the house show loops and stuff, generally right after WrestleMania, the very first tour would be called like WrestleMania Revenge Tour or WrestleMania Rewind Tour or some shit like that. And a lot of times on the house shows, they would do a lot of those WrestleMania matches again. They've been doing that ever since. Like, I remember after in 94, like the WrestleMania tour they did after WrestleMania 10, Brett and Owen worked that whole loop. Just match at night after night after night after night, Brett and Owen, until they got to SummerSlam. So they've always been doing that, and now they're attaching the WrestleMania name to the pay-per-view, which I think is just a cheap way to try to get, you know, more out of that WrestleMania name, which they don't need that. They've never done it before, and just doing it now seems weird, out of place, and stupid. Andy, appreciate the 5 from you, man. What's up? Can you put my girl Jordan over? She's the maid of honor for her sister's wedding on Saturday. Give her the main event push she deserves. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Take her finish? Let her pin me? I'll be happy to do the honors for her, no problem. But Jordan, I'm putting you over. Congrats on being a maid of honor. I've been a best man a couple of times. It's usually pretty fun. Hope the wedding's a blast. And just get your boogie on. And hopefully that qualifies as a main event push. Since you are the maid of honor, if you're doing the speech, good luck. That can be tough. Hopefully you'll get a good pop. Hopefully you'll get a Road Warrior pop in your reception speech. Best of luck to you. Did that knock out the supers? No, it didn't. Chris Miner with the $9.99. Thanks for covering my Peacock, man. Binging the Dark Side of the Ring episodes, and my most recent one was New Jack. I forgot how gruesome he is. Do you remember the moment where you found out, or moment where you were when he faced mass transit? I found out about mass transit through the news. I didn't see that as it happened. Don't even think I saw footage of it until the internet was really in swing, and probably YouTube. It was just I saw some pictures. I don't even think I saw magazine pictures. I just knew of it. It was I knew of the story. Yeah, I don't remember exactly where I was when I learned it. It wasn't that big of, I mean, it was a story that was out there, but it wasn't really blowing up the wrestling world because there was a lot of other shit going on at that time. But I do remember it and hearing a lot about it, especially in the hotlines and in the sheets and shit like that. JJ Leg, thanks for the $2. Just wait for WrestleMania Money in the Bank. If they do that, I'm quitting, selling my belongings. I'm going to go live in the woods. And I'm done. I'm done with the whole thing. Not doing that anymore anyway. All right, that takes out all the pleasantries there. Think I got it. Yeah, we're cool now. We can start getting into the Raw results. Do me a favor, smash the thumbs up button for me if you don't mind as we start going through the show here. It started out a little weird because we had AJ Styles and Omos back. They have not been seen since WrestleMania, so they come out to cut a promo first. I didn't really listen to any of this, and that's just what sucks. You've got a great wrestler, Hall of Fame caliber guy like AJ Styles. Later, you'd have Xavier and Kofi coming out there. All these men I love, and Omos so far I'm super impressed with. But I know that they're just talking shit before their match because it's a 3-hour show. So I'm not paying a ton of attention to what anybody is saying. I didn't even hear where AJ said him and Omos were. What did they sell it as? I remember at one point, I think on social media, AJ had said they were partying in Nigeria or something like that, which made me think, I'm like, I think Omos and General Aziz should switch places. It feels like, like Omos is from, I guess somebody had pointed out that Aziz is half Nigerian. I know he was born in Poland, but it seems like Omos should be doing the Nigerian nail, right? And he should be with Apollo, and maybe Aziz should be with AJ. I don't know, just a thought there. I thought they'd be better maybe switched, but he's still like super impressive, and I like that. He's a guy that's fucking 8 feet tall, and he can actually move around in there a little bit. And I do like everything about him, but this whole stuff, everything he said on the mic and everything that these guys even said prior to the match was something that I didn't even really, really listen to. So I didn't quite hear AJ's explanation to where they were, but that prompted out the New Day. Kofi and Xavier come out, talk some shit as well. And then they go to commercial. We come back. We have the match. Same match as WrestleMania. It was, touch and go there for a while. AJ, of course, was in there on his own doing most of the work. Omos gets hot tagged in, beats the shit out of both New Day members, and AJ comes in with a phenomenal forearm to Xavier Woods to pick up the win and retain the Raw Tag Team titles. And we weren't going to expect a tag team title switch there just to put them on AJ and Omos, drop it in their first defense. That's not going to happen. So they continue to run, and we'll see how long their run goes. AJ feels pretty confident with this guy, and it's something interesting for AJ to do right now. Pretty impressive. Dude became a Grand Slam champion in like 5 years. How long has he been there? He came in 2016, right? So just over 5 years it took him to accomplish that. What a way to finish off his career, huh? My God. After that, we get Charlotte and Sonya Deville. They're backstage, and they're just talking. Charlotte walks off. Adam Pearce shows up, and Sonya just acts like a complete bitch. She is really just overstepping her bounds here, and Adam Pearce is starting to get mad. At some point, he's going to snap and put her through a table. I can feel it. After that, we got into Eva Marie vignette. We already talked a lot about that and what this could mean and what she's going to do. Don't know what she's going to do. It seems to me like WWE has got themselves one hell of a heater here, so I would take advantage of that. Like, I'm not the biggest Eva Marie fan, and I gave my opinions on her return here just a little while ago, but if she's there, you might as well make the best of it. So if the fans really want to hate her, then put her in position to really make the fans boo the fuck out of her. And like I said earlier, this might be a way to take some of that heat off of Charlotte. You start cramming this girl down the fans' throats, they're going to get so pissed. So that could be fun, actually. So we'll see what they do. I'm kind of hoping that this just causes, what it might cause is, like we've seen already on social media, is it might cause a lot of anger. It might cause a lot of fans just talking about it, which people are going to be very passionate and aggressive probably and all that stuff. But you know what that's going to do? It's going to get her name trending. And all it's going to do is make WWE realize that, recognize it, and maybe even do more with her. So we'll see where it all goes. Like I said, I mentioned the ridiculousness of the fact that she's there and so many other great women were recently released, but that's the breaks, man. That's the biz. It ain't never fair. It's never been fair, and there's been certainly more unfair shit than this that's taken place in the past. So no reason to get too hung up on it. Elias and Jackson Riker were backstage. This is when I got really irritated with Raw because they do this shit all the time. It pisses me off. Now's a good time to bring it up. So before we get to Elias and Riker, they run a recap package of what happened last week with I think it's the New Day and Damian Priest chucking the Rotten Tomatoes at Miz and Morrison and at Elias and Riker and whatever the fuck they were doing last week, and they re-showed that tomato spot, which was ridiculous. Then after the recap package, we cut backstage to Elias and Riker attempting to sneak up on the New Day, who have ice packs on their necks from Omos just beating the shit out of them. So they're trying to sneak up on them with a bunch of tomatoes to throw at them to get back at them for last week. Only they kind of walk off, and when they start throwing the tomatoes, they hit Randy Orton, who I guess was passing by instead, and he looks pissed, and he realizes he's got tomatoes all over him, and then Riddle rides by on his scooter, and they just go to commercial, which is pretty funny. But what I don't like is they do this shit every single week without fail. Whenever there's going to be something like spontaneous happen backstage that you would think is just, it just happens to be happening right now, they always have to show you a replay of what's going on between these people in whatever segment they're going to do, and then they just cut backstage as if Riker and Elias are just waiting for their cue, and so is the New Day to do the tomato thing, which, yes, is really what's happening, but in kayfabe it shouldn't be that way. So the fact that they run a video package showing the tomato shit from last week, and then just moments after, Elias and Riker just so happen to be sneaking up on the New Day with a bunch of tomatoes. If you want to make it look spontaneous, don't show the fucking recap. We don't need to be reminded about that stupid-ass tomato segment from last week. They reminded us twice of that tonight. We saw 2 replays of the tomato shit because Miz and Morrison and Damian Priest were involved in that, so they had to show it again when their match happened tonight. So it's like little things like that. We see that all the time. So if there's a backstage fight, or let's say there's a backstage interview with Drew McIntyre and he's attacked from behind by Sheamus, right before that interview, they show you a recap package of the history between Drew and Sheamus. It's like they telegraph it. They tell you what's going to happen by showing you this just non-stop recaps. And I get sometimes recaps are helpful because I don't pay attention to this bullshit. So sometimes a recap will help me out, especially if I'm making my notes. So I don't mind them that much, but there's so many, it's like half of this show. If you just took out the recaps, you'd have a 45-minute show here. It's just recap after recap. So it really pisses me off when they do that shit and they try to make it look like some spontaneous shit's going to happen backstage, and it's anything but. So anyway, that's my little rant there on the terrible production. Kevin Dunn, I don't know why people think you're a genius. You're a goddamn idiot, and none of this stuff is any good at all. After that, we get Charlotte in the ring. She's been granted a match, I guess, by Sonya Deville to take on Dana Brooke. Pretty good little match here, I guess. Charlotte wins with the figure 8. She keeps the hold on after the bell, prompting Mandy Rose to come in and attack Charlotte and makes the save. And that's when Sonya Deville comes out and gets in the ring with Charlotte, and she says that she is here. I think we go to commercial and we come back, and then Charlotte and Sonya are in the ring, and Sonya says that I am here on behalf of WWE management as an equal to Adam Pearce, so she lets it be known that she is his equal, and that she says, or that Charlotte has got a proposal for everyone. So Charlotte gets on the mic and basically pitches her to be added to the Asuka and Rhea Ripley match at WrestleMania Backlash and make it a triple threat. And she cites the reasons why, that she was going to challenge for Asuka, or going to challenge Asuka prior to WrestleMania, but then Rhea came in and a couple other bullshit things she said. Really, there's been worse cases in WWE where they've forced her into situations. I don't feel like this one's as bad as what they've done before, because she was going to be, had all that Andrade pregnancy, COVID, all that mess that happened to her like in February. Without that, she's in a title match at WrestleMania. So now that she's back, putting her in one of the next pay-per-view is kind of fucking likely and quite obvious. So I don't feel like it's coming out of left field. I don't feel like they're just taking her and just shoving her into a match. She was going to be in this situation anyway. And I don't think it's a situation where she needs to work her way up or anything like that. She's Charlotte. You know, when John Cena comes back, he can get a title match if he wants. He doesn't have to work his way up. He doesn't have to work main event. He's going to get a title shot because of his name. Charlotte is pretty much the same way. So although there are times when I feel she is absolutely not needed, like WrestleMania 35, I would have much rather that be Becky and Ronda one-on-one without Charlotte. There are certain times when that's a very, very valid point. I don't think it's one here. And adding Charlotte to Asuka and Rhea Ripley at Backlash, at the end of the day, so what? What the fuck does it matter? You know, it's three great wrestlers. At least we have three great women's wrestlers in a title match at a pay-per-view. They're all good. Like Charlotte or not, she's very good. So is Rhea Ripley. So is Asuka. So it's three very talented individuals in a triple threat. You know, only the most cynical motherfuckers can be angry about that. So I'm choosing not to be angry about this particular Charlotte situation, but I reserve the right to be angry about future Charlotte situations. I think more fans should try to think that way. So anyway, once Sonya grants Charlotte the request and grants a request to be in the triple threat, that prompts Rhea Ripley to come out, who says, oh no, that's bullshit. Then Asuka comes out behind her, and she's also mad. She says, hell no, she can beat everyone in there. And then there's a brawl, and that's the end of the segment. So Charlotte's officially added to Backlash, and the world can cry about that, I guess. We then get a Humberto Carrillo, another kind of telegraph deal here. Humberto Carrillo interview. And prior to, with Kayla Braxton, Kayla shows a recap of what happened last week with Carrillo and Sheamus. And then Carrillo's on the mic, and he says that he won't let Sheamus bully him. And before he even gets a few more words out, Sheamus attacks him from behind and kicks his ass and is basically like, well, fella, I guess you won't be challenging me for my U.S. title tonight because I'm going to have another open challenge, but you're kind of injured, so that's not going to happen. After that, we get Damian Priest and John Morrison one-on-one. Oh, I got a text message that might be relevant. Oh, never mind. John Morrison and Damian Priest one-on-one after this. Miz and Morrison come out there first. Morrison gets on the mic and says a few words, says he's America's most wanted. Okay, gross. After that, the match starts. The finish sees Miz kind of get up on the apron to attempt to help John Morrison, but he kind of sabotages him because while he's distracting the ref, Morrison's got Damian Priest rolled up in a pinning combination for like a count of 4 or 5. Referee misses it. Damian Priest is able to kick out and recover, winds up nailing John Morrison with the hit the lights and gets the win. They're really, really taking their time here with what everybody feels like is going to be an eventual split here between Miz and Morrison. But I think we're at least 7 or 8 months into talking about that now. So it's taken forever, but at some point they keep teasing us. And maybe it's just the ultimate troll. Maybe it's just like every single week they do something to where you're going to say, oh yeah, any day now, Miz is going to turn on Morrison, and then they just never do it. That would actually be kind of funny. I might actually prefer that because why not? We then go back to Adam Pearce's office backstage, and he's with Mansoor. So Mansoor officially signs his WWE contract or his Raw contract, so he's going to be on Raw now. Got a hell of a winning streak of like 40 or 50 matches going on or something like that, but he's been on 205 Live, I think some main event maybe. He's done a ton of house shows. We've seen him on the Super Showdown shit or Crown Jewel shit before. So we've seen him a few times. He's now on Raw. And he's going to be having a pretty big match in his first opening because right after he signed the contract there, he's approached by Sheamus, who basically gives him a chance to go out to the ring and wrestle with him later on. So we would see Mansoor versus Sheamus later on, and that's a pretty big match for him to begin. But now that he's finally there, we'll see what the kid can do. After that, we get a tag team match with Lucha House Party taking on Cedric and Shelton. Now, of course, Kalisto's been released. We still have Grand Metalik and what's his face there, Dorado, and they win. They beat Cedric and Shelton, and I've been wondering about the future of this team because after the Hurt Business is broken up, I don't really see the point in really keeping them together, especially when they weren't really that tight-knit to begin with. Cedric has been a loose cannon ever since the beginning of the Hurt Business, so I thought when Bobby Lashley kicked them out that they would go their separate ways, but they kind of remained a tag team for a little while here, but that seems to be over now. After the loss, Cedric gets on the mic, very passionate promo. It was okay, but talks about Shelton Benjamin and that he's in the prime of his life and Shelton is not, and he's not going to waste any more years of the prime of his life on a washed-up piece of shit like Shelton, and this team is over. Later on, backstage, Shelton Benjamin's interviewed about this, and he said the only reason Shelton Benjamin was in the Hurt Business is at all was because he put in a good word for him because he saw something in him, and he convinced MVP and Lashley to bring him in. And he said that he let Cedric Alexander say his piece, but that won't happen again. If he keeps pushing me, I'm going to whoop his ass. So now you know we're going to get Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander one-on-one in some sort of a little mini program here. Don't know if that would even make it to pay-per-view or not, or if that's just going to be some Raw stuff. We'll see. Most likely, that's just going to be a match that we're getting next week. We'll find out. We had a Drew Gulak sighting. Look at there. He's backstage. Angel Garza walks by with a rose. Gulak starts giving him shit about the rose, and you can't get any girls or whatever the hell he says, and then challenges him to a match in the ring. Garza said that he's going to shove the rose up his ass, and he winds up doing that. They go to the ring after the commercial, have the match. Garza wins with the wing clipper. After the match, he takes the rose, he stuffs it down the tights, or I guess Gulak's laying like on his stomach on the mat. Garza takes the rose, sticks it down his trunks, backs up, and then basically kind of delivers a taint shot with his foot that would essentially is going to shove that rose, that thorny rose right up the rectum of Drew Gulak. So if I didn't know any better, I think this guy's getting released tomorrow based on the way they shit on him here tonight. But I guess overall it was funny, and Garza made good on his promise to insert the rose into Drew Gulak's butthole. Good for you. This was probably my favorite spot of the whole night. Backstage, Viking Raiders approached by Scootin' Matt Riddle, rides up to him, and he's like, hey, bros, I was watching the NFL draft, and he asked the Viking Raiders, he's basically, who are you pulling for, the Vikings or the Raiders, which is pretty funny. They went on to explain to Riddle what the name Viking Raiders even means, as if Riddle or any of us care. Riddle then calls Ivar a sexy little stallion, which is not a lie. And then Riddle sees Orton, and he immediately gets distracted, runs over to Randy Orton, and he's all excited, talking about how they're undefeated. And Randy Orton's like, bro, we've had one match, and Riddle is ready to Riddle's ready for the RKO t-shirts and the snakeskin Speedos. If you guys notice any snakeskin Speedos on WWE Shop, please let me know and send me the link. I'd like to pick up a few pair. Do me that solid. After the commercial, we get the tag team match that was set up with the tomato bullshit earlier on. Randy Orton, Matt Riddle taking on Jackson Riker and Elias. Very similar finish to last week again. You knew Orton and Riddle were going to kind of keep rolling here. Orton is, frustrated, but, he's just kind of on the fence. He can't stand Riddle, but at the same time, he kind of respects him. He even kind of gave him a fist bump in the ring and just kind of shook his head like, this guy's fucking driving me crazy kind of thing, which I really like because you can see that build and you can kind of see where they're going with this here. And it should be a lot of fun. It's one of the only fun things on the show right now. And it's such a nice breather for Randy Orton after all the gnarly shit has been doing for the past 7 months with The Fiend. You need this lighthearted thing. And there's no reason to run through this quick. Everybody's like, oh, next week he's going to RKO Matt Riddle and stuff. Don't get me wrong. He's going to murder Matt Riddle. But in the meantime, there's really this is a good thing to kind of let these guys just do something for a while. This is going to be a good rub for Riddle in the end. This is going to be good for him to be working with Randy Orton. And the more it gets over and the more it gets the fans chuckling, WWE can run with it for a bit before you do the inevitable split. Is Randy Orton going to kill Matt Riddle? Of course. Is the sky fucking blue? Any idiot with two eyes can see they're going there. But you got to give it some fun first. At first, Matt Riddle, I think, is going to grow on Randy Orton just a little bit. And, and then it'll come for a full circle again, where all it's going to take is a loss, maybe a couple of losses to kind of turn the tables on that relationship. And then Randy Orton's going to go psycho. So I think it'll be something like that. But like I said, pretty similar finish to last week. Riddle asks for the tag when Randy is in firm control. And Orton obliges, tags in Matt Riddle, goes to the top, nails Elias right on his head, hits him with the floating bro, but he landed right on top of Elias's head. Looked like a pretty sick bump. And as he's hitting that, Randy Orton is simultaneously nailing Jackson Riker with the RKO. Matt Riddle rolls over Elias to pin him, and RK Bro pick up the win. So I think what's going to happen here is they'll build up a couple of wins. They'll face some schmucks like this. Then, they'll get a big win. Maybe not against the tag champs or maybe against the tag champs. I mean, hell, if there's one team maybe formidable enough to actually defeat AJ and Omos, it might be these guys. But don't rush on that. Let them have a couple of weeks of this. Let Randy Orton be super annoyed with Riddle. Every week, Riddle is driving him fucking nuts backstage, and you can see it in Randy's face that he's like so close, but at the same time, they're winning. And, so he's tolerating it. And something's going to happen in a match. Riddle will save him, or Riddle. Maybe Riddle would do what R-Truth did to Brock Lesnar a couple of years ago on Raw. Actually broke Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar was visibly laughing his balls off in the middle of the ring. You don't see a whole lot of that from Randy Orton. It might only be a matter of time before you get these guys in the ring and Riddle says some shit on the mic and Orton just can't fucking contain himself. So I think something like that will be nice first. I don't think WWE has the ability to draw this out for months. There's not that much shelf life here. This story is pretty simple. You know, the odd couple, goofy ass motherfucker, very simple or serious Randy Orton that can only last so long, but it will last. You watch. What's going to happen is Orton's going to start slowly warming up to Riddle. Riddle is going to grow on him to the point where Orton is actually going to be happy that he's tag team partners with Riddle, but that will end quick. If they take this all the way to the championships, maybe, or this could have nothing to do with the titles at all, and they'll just be, you know, kind of a team, a little mini alliance, something fun to watch on the show before Orton just can't take it anymore. But I think that's that's what has to happen first, because you got to think about who Riddle is, what his character's like. You're not just going to have Randy Orton RKO him next week. You've lost all of your payoff. Then you gotta build up Riddle, because you have to think, if Randy Orton eventually accepts Riddle, think about what that's going to do for Riddle's character. He's going to be so happy. He's going to be just in love with Randy Orton. He's going to have heart, you know, just starry eyes. He's going to be so happy, so in love with Randy Orton that they're a team. So when Orton inevitably turns on him, hits him with the RKO, beats the shit out of him or whatever, that'll really, really deepen the heartbreak for Riddle and make it even more devastating for him that his bro, you know, that his tag team, you know, partner turned on him. I think that's what you want to do. And like I said, you don't have to wait very long to do that, but Riddle and Orton need to spend a week, a minimum of 1 week, a maximum of like 6 weeks on the same page where they're actually gelling, they're cohesive. Orton likes him. You know, Orton enjoys teaming with him and all that. They got to be on the same page a little, then you do it. You don't do it next week, because then you've just ruined it. So it's been pretty fun. We'll see what they do next week. But Riddle riding around on a scooter fucking with everybody is pretty hilarious, even though some people don't like it. I do, so fuck you. After that, we got a Drew McIntyre interview. He's shitting on Mason Teabag and talking about them. We didn't see them tonight, actually. I thought we might. Braun Strowman comes up to Drew and then starts bitching about, you know, the triple threat at Backlash. He says, I know you guys think I don't belong there, because you don't. But he says he's going to win the title anywhere or whatever. I don't listen to anything Strowman says. We then go to the ring to get Mansoor and Sheamus. And this was a pretty good, you know, opening or outing, I should say, for Mansoor. Mansoor is very similar, I guess, like in body style. He reminds me of Montez Ford, just way less athletic, but he's still very good. And there was one sick spot on the outside of the ring where Sheamus, I think he picked him up and suplexed and hung him draped him on his stomach over the barricade, and he got some air. And the way Mansoor landed was sick, and he nearly got counted out, but he got back in the ring in time and continued the fight. Sheamus got opened up on his forehead a little bit, so he's bleeding. And Sheamus finally kind of regains control. He's got Mansoor in the corner, and he goes up to deliver the bro kick. And while he's doing the chest punches, Humberto Carrillo hits the ring, gets revenge for the attack from earlier on, allowing the DQ, which is kind of good. I was like, oh, man, they're going to bring Mansoor out and just beat him on his first night, because I don't think he's going to be beating Sheamus for the title. So Carrillo coming in, attacking, causing the DQ. That was a way to get out of that. And I guess Carrillo was going to, you know, eventually get that match with Sheamus. And now that they're stretching this thing out, you know, into its third week, I guess next week will be the third or fourth week of this. They're not going to put the title on Carrillo. I just don't see, I like him, but just bringing him back, let's put the belt on him right off the bat like that. I don't see it happening, but eventually we're going to get that match. I need help from you guys with Alexa Bliss and Lily. Didn't see any of that. Missed the entire segment. So I went to social media and I wrote down a quote that Alexa Bliss had said. She says, wherever Lily goes, trouble seems to follow. Lily just told me a certain someone may have caught her beady little eyes. I can't tell you who yet, though. That's our dirty little secret. So sounds like Alexa Bliss is beginning to target someone. And we talked about this last week, that we're all assuming that Alexa Bliss is going to transform into this Lily character and actually get in the ring and wrestle. And now she's targeting someone. We have to assume it's a woman. And that could, you know, what would be interesting too is Alexa could be targeting one of the three women in the title match at Backlash. So since it's a triple threat, you know, you could get the, I don't want to say, you could get the belt off of Ripley without pinning her. If Alexa shows up and does something weird, I don't know. And you can also do the same thing to Charlotte or Asuka. So I don't think Alexa would target Charlotte. She might target Asuka, but I don't know why or what the motivation there would be. You would think that Alexa might want the title. And right now in that match, the only babyface in it is Asuka, and she was already champion for a year. So she could make her presence known in that match, or this could be something completely different. Who's she talking about? What do y'all think is going to happen? Like I said, I missed the whole segment, so I didn't really catch what she said there. So I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point, Joey. You love Alexa Bliss, but no one can pull off that character like Bray Wyatt does. I mean, this really is kind of the female version of the Fiend, and she is doing really well. They're taking it further than I thought. I think I liked it better at first when she was like kind of normal Alexa Bliss, and then she started getting all crazy. Like the first couple of weeks of this. Remember when her hair was all crazy? It reminded me of Chris Jericho in WCW when he just come out with like the crazy hair, and she just looked like disheveled. I kind of like that, and then it slowly turned into her turning into a full-blown monster here. So they're taking it a little bit further than I expected for this to be branching off. I mean, it's like a spin-off, and she's got her own type of shit going on, and now she's targeting other people separate from Bray Wyatt. And there was no sign of Wyatt tonight either. So I don't know. I don't know what it means in the future, but I think Bray Wyatt, it's hard to top what he does. But Alexa Bliss is doing very well with this role. We've said that all along. I think she's hit a home run with it, and it's been the most interesting she's ever been. And considering who she's been and her character has been since she's been there, she's not someone that I really had pegged for this. I had Nikki Cross or Ruby Riott or some like a little more hardcore of a chick pegged for a gimmick like this. I didn't think it would go to little cutesy Alexa Bliss, but she's pulling it off and she's doing it well. So yes, it's not maybe as good as Bray Wyatt, but I think it's still pretty good. Might be going a little overboard here, maybe a little further than I thought they were going to take it, but I'm still... I still have the opinion that Alexa Bliss, since all this shit started, has really blossomed into a really fun character and pulls all this off really well. It's the most interested I've ever been in her. So that's good, right? After that, we got a pretty quick tag team title match between Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax taking on Lana and Naomi. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler seem to be on the same page here. I wasn't totally looking at this match very much. Reginald was out there. All sorts of shit was happening. In the end, Shayna chokes out Lana, and that was that. Still tag team champions, Baszler and Jax. They didn't seem to have too many issues this week like they have in previous weeks. Seem to have their shit together, and at some point, somebody's got to have to take these titles off of these two. I'm just glad it wasn't in Lana and Naomi. Nothing against them personally. The team just does zero for me. Which brings us to our main event, Bobby Lashley versus Braun Strowman. Was this some coin toss shit? I missed it. I tuned into Raw at like 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So I think I missed, because I thought it was advertised that Strowman or Drew would face Lashley, and I think they did a coin flip or something, and Strowman won. So that was your main event, Braun Strowman versus Bobby Lashley. Watching Lashley, I say this every week, but when Lashley was out there, waiting for Strowman to come out, and he's just kind of bouncing around in the ring, and he's got that title around his waist, he just looks like the way a champion should look. Whoa. He just looks like the way a champion should look. He just carries himself well. He reminds me a lot of Triple H, who just always wore that title, and he looks so good with the title around his waist. Bobby Lashley, I've never really even been a fan of the current WWE title design with that big WWE logo in the middle of it, but Lashley makes it look good. Brock made it look good too, and so did Drew. But so I guess lately they've had some pretty good champions, but Lashley just looks like an unbelievably credible champion like that. I love him. I really hope he holds the title until SummerSlam 2024 because he's awesome. But anyway, the match starts. We get Drew McIntyre coming out about midway through. You knew as soon as his music hit, they're setting up for a commercial. So Drew comes out. He's face-to-face with Strowman, and I think Lashley comes in and hits Strowman and tries to do a fist bump to Drew, and then we go to commercial. We come back. Drew's now on commentary, and the match continues. Really weird spot in the match where Verk asks about promo class. He asked Drew right there on commentary about promo class. Like, I understand on the WWE Network, we admit that it's a work, but are we now to the point where we're admitting that it's a work on TV too? That they're talking about promo class and shit? I just don't think that's topic of Monday Night Raw main event that's a really good topic of discussion. So kind of funny that he brought up promo classes in the main event. Whatever. Maybe that's just me. Maybe people thought nothing of it. I just thought it was odd. Drew McIntyre winds up getting taken out by Lashley on the commentary booth. And back in the ring, Lashley spears and pins Braun Strowman. And then Drew gets off commentary. He jumps in the ring, and he winds up nailing both of these guys with a Claymore to close the show. And right before we go off the air, Corey Graves announces that next week, he just found out that next week, Bobby Lashley will be taking on Drew McIntyre. So it's just what they do. And there's a triple threat. Everybody has to face each other. You got an upcoming tag team match on a pay-per-view. You have to do 2 sets of singles matches with the partners facing each other. Same shit here. So just overdone nonsense. So next week, who knows what's going to happen? I think tonight, the one good thing about this main event is that I was extremely concerned that they were going to pin the champion here, because Lashley still has been, they haven't even done that bullshit where they've pinned the champion. I don't think he's really eaten a pin or anything. And I thought for sure Drew would come out, Claymore him, Strowman would get the win, giving Strowman a little extra momentum going into Backlash, even though we know he's not going to win it anyway. So the fact that Lashley beat him was like a big relief for me. But then when Drew did what he did and we announced the match for next week, now I'm thinking they're going to do it next week, because I want Lashley to hold on to the title. So I think maybe a little consolation prize or something, or a way to keep Drew strong, is have Drew get a victory over Lashley ahead of the pay-per-view, but then have Lashley retain at the pay-per-view. So if they do that, I just kind of hope it's not clean. I hope next week Strowman is out there making a fuss and shit and all sorts of stuff's happening, and lots of distractions, lots of stuff. And in the end, maybe Drew catches Lashley with the Claymore and pins him. Fine. WWE, if that's what you got to do, do it. But then at Backlash, you have Lashley retain the title so he can hopefully go into SummerSlam as champion. I don't really see the point in taking the belt off of him right now. And hopefully Strowman really is there to take that pin. Sometimes I don't really like that situation, but just putting somebody in the match so they can take the pin. Here, I'm actually all right with it because, I still like Drew. I'm not anti-Drew in any way. I'm just very, very pro Lashley. So if Drew wins next week, I could see that happening. I could see that as something that could happen. And then Lashley retains in the triple threat at Backlash. It's kind of where I feel like it's going, but we'll see. Y'all tell me where it's going. Joe Shipley will never look at roses the same after tonight. Me neither. Feel bad. Moment of silence, please, for Drew Gulak's ass crack. It's probably all lacerated. That's one thing you don't want, is a lacerated ass crack. There'll be a lot of things you want. That's like way down on my list. Oh, I didn't. Okay. I didn't hear that part, Deshaun. I copied this quote from WWE's Twitter page. So Alexa also said that Lily has a crush on one of the male talent, but she's not willing to say. Boy, lucky you. Get to hook up with a girl who's got little skulls for teeth. That should make bedroom play interesting. Dylan, I do not want to imagine Goldberg coming out and challenging Lashley. I don't want to imagine that. Don't make me. Yeah, Jose, I think you might be right. I at this point, that's what I'd do with Alexa Bliss. Get her in the women's title picture. I think along the way, she needs to maybe find and destroy Nikki Cross. Now, we haven't seen Nikki Cross in a while. I think she either needs to find and destroy Nikki Cross or trap Nikki, bring Nikki Cross into her craziness. And maybe after Alexa goes after the title or does whatever she's going to do, her and Nikki can form a creepy-ass tag team or something. Maybe Nikki turns to the dark side. I don't know. I still think their run-ins aren't done. You think he'll hold the title until Raw 2000? What do you mean? Is there the 2000th episode? When is that? That's got to be coming up. They did Raw 1000 back in 2012. That took them 20 years to get then. Yeah, I don't know. That's way off in the future, I think. But yeah, I'm cool with that. Anything way off in the future, I'm in favor of when it comes to Bobby Lashley. Go over here and read some more questions. See if there's anything else we can get into before we sign off tonight, because it wasn't that good of a show. I'm really interested who Lily is talking about, which male superstar. That's have they teased anything? Certainly it's not Randy Orton again. Who's somebody that's like somewhat significant but ain't doing jack shit right now? That would be good. Who would be good in that situation? You know what I just learned today? I didn't know about? I had no idea that Seth Rollins, I guess he had almost passed out during his WrestleMania 35 entrance. He had the first match, remember, against Brock Lesnar. I think Hogan came out and then Heyman came out, and they did the match right there, kind of impromptu. And I never knew this happened, or if I did, I forgot about it. And Seth, when he went out to the entrance, I think he just had like a rush of, I mean, you got to imagine being on that stage. You know, your adrenaline's pumping, you're psyching yourself up. There's 80,000 people. You're the first one out there. You know, he kind of went dark, and he was really, really, really close to the edge of the stage. And if he would have fainted, he would have toppled over that stage and required medical help. And you talk about starting off WrestleMania with just a huge disaster, a potentially injured, severely injured, or dead Seth Rollins is not the way you want to kick off a pay-per-view. And I just learned about that like yesterday. So interesting little piece of trivia that is recent and that I never knew about. It's probably pretty scary. I can only imagine. You see that shit all the time. People faint at their own weddings, just being in front of people and stuff. So it's probably pretty scary. I've had rushes of adrenaline like that where I saw red, or I kind of saw white a little bit. You know, I think I've felt pretty close to that. You get lightheaded type of thing. I'm surprised something like this has actually not happened before. When you think about how many people faint in large gatherings, the fact that nobody really ever has, you know, on a Raw or anything like that is pretty crazy. Pretty insane. Comedic genius, appreciate the buck from you, man. Oh, wow. Thank you for that, Jose. Raw 2000 is on September 22nd, 2031. Wow. That will be the 44-year anniversary of Goldberg's debut, September 22nd. How crazy is that? And what if Goldberg comes out? He'll be 65 or some shit. What is up with Randy Orton? He's not doing anything. Yes, he is. He's doing awesome things. This is definitely something. This is a break for Randy Orton. He's already been in the title picture. He had that long run with Drew McIntyre for the title, even won the title, then went into all the Fiend shit. He's been involved in some pretty heavy duty shit the past few months. Give him a breather. This is something fun. This is a break for Randy Orton and for the fans. Get to see Randy Orton doing something a little bit different, doing the Riddle stuff. It's going to be fun. So far, it's been pretty hilarious. And I think if they continue to roll a little bit, you could even talk about maybe giving him a brief run with the tag titles and give Orton something to do for the summer. There's nothing at all wrong with this. Because if you think about it, there's nothing else for him really to do right now. He'd be out of place in the title picture because that's just already a mess. And he's already done the Fiend stuff. You know, AJ's in a, tag team title program with Omos, so that could be, good for those two to hook up again. But otherwise, Randy Orton would probably just be feuding with a random person. That random person might turn out to be Riddle once this team, eventually you would think implodes and Randy Orton just can't take it anymore and kicks his ass. Then we got a Randy Orton and Riddle program, and that ain't bad, Dylan. I'll watch a Randy Orton and Riddle match. Sure. Absolutely. Two of the best out there right now. So I think Randy Orton's doing a lot, actually, on the contrary. Cena did promo classes with Roman. Oh, you remember Shawn Michaels passing out back in the day against Owen Hart. So do I. Watched that live. That was the night after Survivor Series 95. One of my favorite Raws ever. That because it was really significant. We saw things we'd never seen before. And plus, that was one of the first times that I'm trying to think when they would do live Raws after pay-per-views all the time. But then right after that, they would tape. a bunch of shows. So once a month, you got a live Raw, I think, back in those days. So I knew it was already kind of exciting because it was a live Raw. Diesel had just dropped the belt, and Diesel came out. Diesel cut what was really the precursor to a Stone Cold Steve Austin or Attitude Era type of attitude or tweener character when he was kind of coming out as a babyface, but at the same time saying, you know, I'm going to go back to being just who I am, and you got to wear a black glove for me to know you're supporting me and shit like that. And it was a really interesting promo because it was one you didn't see at the time. You know, how he talked about his title loss and, you know, I was a corporate puppet. I had this goofy ass smile on my face, and I feel more like myself now than I have in a year. Now that I've dropped the belt, and you're going to see a new Diesel and a new attitude and that sort of thing. So I liked all of that. And then when you closed it out with Shawn Michaels passing out, was interesting because Diesel had left, you know, and the night before he had kicked the shit out of Brett, and then Diesel left. I think he high-fived Shawn before Shawn went out for his match, and then he collapsed. So there's a lot of stuff happening there. Back in 95, you didn't have a show that had so much happening. Usually it was just a ton of just stupid matches and then a main event. That was all Raw was. So they crammed a lot into that hour episode, one of my favorite ones ever. But yeah, Shawn passed out, and they sold it pretty well with Vince getting off headset and stuff. Yeah, I know. I saw Deshaun. I saw the video of it, and you can see how he kind of wobbles there. And I'm like, holy shit! I guess, you know, because I was live streaming that night. I think I was doing a live reaction. And when I'm talking to all of you, I'm only kind of watching, sort of. I'm not like, it doesn't have my 110% full attention. So if something like that happens, I never catch it. So and I'm sure it was talked about, but it was just a story that I missed. I just never knew. So I'm like, wow, I can't believe I never knew that or talked about it or mentioned it on a podcast or anything like that. Pretty scary stuff. I'm glad that Seth was able to survive that. What's going on, Zane G? Good to see you. Kayvon Martin, Eva Marie will save Raw. Finally, the ratings troubles are over. Their prayers have been answered. No more problems on Raw. Everything's going to be smooth sailing from now on because Eva Marie is here, and she has come to save WWE. E2J is here to save us all. Yeah, Trey, I don't know if you saw Raw tonight, but Eva Marie is coming back. Well, you probably at least saw my thumbnail. Yeah, ran a vignette for Eva Marie. She'll be back, and I guess I don't think she's going to be called Evolution, but that's like the tagline to her, Evolution. Get it? It's like Evolution, except with Eva. Get it? See what they did there? Well, Dylan, it's not really that random. Back in 2000, 2003, or 2002 and 03, Brock was training to be a wrestler. He was brought onto the scene, and he was pushed. He was a full-time wrestler, but then he left in 2004. He didn't like to travel, didn't like to do it anymore, went to the NFL, went to the UFC, made a big name for himself, and was able to come back and negotiate himself a contract that would only require him to work a certain amount of time. He's a part-time wrestler because he's in the position to be a part-time wrestler. That's why. Plus, Brock being a part-time guy, I would like to have Brock back a little bit more than we did. Still to this day, he has not wrestled on Monday Night Raw in like 20 years. So I think, I think he should have had a couple of TV matches in the past, 8 years, 9 years since he's been back. But it adds legitimacy to him that he doesn't work all the time. Roman is kind of doing that now too, just not to the degree that Brock did. Up until last week on SmackDown, I don't think Roman's really been in the ring much on SmackDown since he's been back and been champion. He's been saving his matches for the pay-per-views only. Jey Uso's been doing all his dirty work in the meantime and stepping in the ring extremely rarely on SmackDown. I don't think maybe one time prior to his match with Daniel Bryan on Friday. So he's kind of doing a little bit of that, and I think that helps add to the championship, that it's not just something that it's always in the ring, always in segments, like Lashley is doing on Raw. He's got something to do every week, and most of those weeks are even in the ring wrestling. So it's a little bit different. But Brock's an interesting example just because of his how different he is and the success he had outside of WWE. Same thing with The Rock. Rock's a movie star. WWE needs him, not the other way around. So that's why guys like that get to be part-time. Chris Ludecki, thanks for the $5 and welcome back. I think Lashley and Alexa are consistently the best part of Raw weekly, thought his RK Bro angle is starting to interest me. Me too. I like the RK Bro stuff. I'd probably be with you. I think Lashley, I just love him as champion. I don't really give much of a shit about Drew and Strowman right now, although I like Drew. Alexa is interesting to me, and so is RK Bro. The women's title scene, not feeling it totally right now, which is sad because when you look, I know a lot of people, like I said, are complaining about Charlotte being added, but if you can just take away that Charlotte anger and look, I'm like, man, we got 3 pretty badass women at the top of the food chain on Raw right now. That's not a bad thing, but at the same time, it's not giving me a whole lot of interest. I think Rhea and Asuka was shoved together real quick prior to WrestleMania when it became clear that Charlotte was going to be out. And then Rhea just came out, challenged, got the match. Didn't have to do anything, just got the match. So it's lacked some interest for me. Yeah, Eva Marie could probably be another Emelina. They are desperate to get this type of character. I mean, they were kind of the same thing. And then who did it recently? They've done another Emelina. Was it it was Lana, right? Wasn't Lana? Then she was coming out in evening gowns and stuff. They are so desperate to do this dumb shit with somebody, and I'm guessing now it will be back to Eva Marie. We'll see. Yeah, Trey, I might. We thought about ECW One Night Stand 2006. My watch along schedule's weird. This Sunday is kind of up in the air still. I'm sorry I don't have a ton of information for you other than my podcast on Friday night after SmackDown. Still trying to figure out if I can be up here on Wednesday or not. And then Sunday's weird too because it's Mother's Day and I'm going to have to be at work all day and I got to see. I can come home and do a watch along after that, but I'm just not sure of the level of tired I'm going to be. So trying to figure all that out. I'll be doing that in the next couple days. So it's more important than ever to make sure you follow me on Twitter and stuff. That way I can inform you guys whenever I make these decisions. Yeah, Jose, I just said that. Raw 2000. Actually, I think it's 44 years from Goldberg's debut on Nitro. September 22nd was a big night. It was also the same night Goldberg debuted is the same night that Austin stunned Vince at Madison Square Garden. And prior to that show taking place was also the same night when Vince told Brett he wanted out of his contract. That night of September 22nd set in motion a course of events that changed everything all the way up into the loss of Owen Hart. You know, had Vince never had that conversation with Brett stays, no screw job, no blue blazer, and probably no Stone Cold Steve Austin to the degree that he made it, actually. So, but still, if it gave us Owen back, I'd take it. Oh, Lana and Carmella did it too. I forgot about Carmella. That's right. They did that shit with her too. That's right. I forgot about Carmella. You're right about that. Huh. Yeah, like how many times can you do the same shit with these girls? But I guess now they're going to get it done with Eva Marie. We'll see how long it takes her to get in the ring. Should be funny. Zane, I'm going to be checking out Randy Savage's A&E biography tonight. So far, it's being pretty heavily criticized just because of how full of shit some parts of it are. And, you know, he already had the Dark Side of the Ring where they talked about a lot of Randy's demons and his problems and stuff. But apparently the A&E bio was had a lot of inaccuracies, you know. But there's going to be some interesting stuff on there as well. I definitely like the Dark Side of the Ring docs better. I did get a look at Brian Pillman, part 1 yesterday. Part 2 kicks off the second season, or the third season, I'm sorry, I believe on Thursday. But part 1 was pretty dark, that's for sure. Yeah. I've talked about that very fact in multiple podcasts before, Joe. You know, what happened, there's certain things in wrestling that, a couple moments in wrestling that had they not happened, we'd be looking at a completely different business, maybe even a completely different company on top. And when you think back to that curtain call, had that not happened, Austin, I think, was good enough to get over anyway. But without that curtain call, you don't get Austin 316. You don't get that promo. Maybe you still get it if Austin and Jake work together outside of that King of the Ring. But there's no guarantee there, you know, and then maybe Austin would make a religious reference with Jake Roberts or something like that. But without that King of the Ring match, not only do you not get Austin winning it, but You don't get that promo. You don't get Austin 316. You don't get that, that train starting to move. And it would have changed everything. It would have changed everything. Triple H would have been king of the ring. He would have gotten the title shots and all that. And yeah, it would have been quite crazy. And it would have probably harmed WWE. It's better that it did happen, because I think Triple H would have been a weak. I don't want to say weak, but I mean that would have been a year after Mabel, so nothing's really weaker than that. But Austin was just the better guy. Plus, if Triple H won it, then he'd be up there on that throne with that hat. And I know Triple H didn't like the crown and the cape and shit either. But I think another small, sometimes not as much talked about part of that Austin promo is that he never even looked at the scepter or the crown or the cape. To me, that was just as big as the Austin 316 line, is the fact that, it's not that he looked at it and thought about it. He pretended it wasn't even there. There's no throne. There's no crown. I'm not fucking 5. I'm not going to put that stupid shit on and sit in that stupid throne because it's stupid, so he's just more of it's just more realistic. It felt so much better. And he was, Austin wasn't going to play that game. As much as I loved Brett, he looked like a goddamn fool wearing that shit, when he won the King of the Ring the first time. Owen, I liked. Certain people I liked. Owen, I liked. Angle, I liked. Angle coming out with a crown, he looked like such a doofus with it. And, and Owen with the King of Hearts, that was all fine. But, Austin would have looked ridiculous if he would have put that shit on. And I'm glad Austin knew his character well enough to say, I will not put that on. And the following year, it's like when Triple H did win, he's told the story about how they insisted that he puts it on, and that's why he bashed Mankind over the head with the crown to ruin it, so he wouldn't have to wear it. So there's a lot of things about that promo that helped Austin, but without the curtain call, it doesn't happen. So yeah, I always think about that. Without the curtain call and without the screw job, think about how vastly different. It wouldn't be a little different. It would be completely 100% different than what we're seeing right now. Different people on top, different scenarios, different, just different everything, and different decisions. WWE might not have gone public as quickly as they did. They might not have rose and exploded in the Attitude Era, and maybe they would have run out of gas. Maybe it wouldn't have been enough, because in late 96 there, 97 was fun with the screw job and stuff, but, without Austin bubbling during that era, by the time they got to late 97 and stuff, and Brett left and went and got more money, company might have just they wouldn't have had Austin with that much momentum to save them. And by the time The Rock got made and all that, that would have all just not happened. It would just been completely different. So who knows? Rock Rock might not even be a movie star. You can really trace it that far. I mean, you can think of a whole bunch of different scenarios that would have been a chain reaction that would have caused one thing after another to happen. And with that curtain call not happening, Triple H winning the King of the Ring, no Austin 316 promo, no sticking Rocky Maivia in the nation. Who knows? We might not even get The Rock. The Rock might have never found his way. He might have gotten over, might have became a big star, but maybe not to the point where they're inviting him on SNL, which sparked his movie career and took off to do everything, so maybe he could have still made it, but maybe not exactly the same way he did. So it would be a very different looking universe had some of those things not happened. And the curtain call's a big one, a real big one. MVP is a fantastic mouthpiece for Bobby Lashley. MVP would be a fantastic mouthpiece for anyone. I love MVP. And we talked about this last week, that if you ever get a situation where we can get Lashley and Brock together, or Lashley and Roman together for that matter, I would love to see a verbal sparring in the ring with MVP and Heyman. Now, it's going to be hard for anybody to be better than Heyman. And I'm not saying MVP is, but he's definitely somebody who I think can hold his own against Heyman, because he's a man. Heyman's a coward. Heyman's a fat walrus coward. He talks a big game, but in the end, he's gonna shy away from a fight, where MVP isn't like that. And MVP could use the intimidation factor. Heyman can talk, but MVP can intimidate. So it would be a really cool thing to see, Roman and Lashley, or Brock and Lashley in the ring with Heyman and MVP kind of going back and forth. That would be fun. We might see that scenario play out at SummerSlam this year. But I think MVP should represent more people. I hope, he did have the Hurt Business, and now it's just him and Lashley, but I'd be open to MVP representing more. not jobbers, actual major stars. I'd be into that. So we'll see. What if John Cena got fired? John Cena was a big part of WWE, but by the time they got to that, I think they were already past the days of relying on one person to carry the company. If it wasn't John Cena, it would have been somebody else. They would have just forced. Probably would have been Randy Orton. So I think WWE, all in all, John Cena is a credit to the business. He's a credit to WWE. He deserves a statue for his contributions to that company, coming through for them at a very tough time. He was, he had to be the face of that PG company after the Benoit tragedies, and they had to kind of switch directions and get a little cheesy and weird, and he did it. And he did it well, and he had, a lot of people didn't like his cheesiness and shit. That's the way it was, but his matches were good. He was a solid champion, represented the company well when he was asked to do public appearances and talk shows and shit like that. He was a good guy to have there, and I think he deserves credit for that. But if he wasn't there, WWE would have been fine. I don't think we would have been in a situation where they'd be out of business or anything like that. Just different people would have gotten the opportunities, where before, without Austin and stuff, I think the company doesn't survive. But by the time they got to Cena, they'd survive without him. So it was just a completely different landscape by the time they got to that. So, a lot of what ifs, are different and would, have different results depending on what time period these what ifs happened. Zane G, appreciate $10 from you, man. With WrestleMania 4 and 5 held in the same venue back to back, had WrestleMania hadn't been booked that way, where would you have seen WrestleMania 4 or 5 had it not been booked back to back in the same venue? I don't know. By that point, there were only 3 deep. So, 1 and 2 were relatively small, although 2 was at 3 locations, and then they went huge for 3. So they didn't really have that big of a draw where they could put 100,000 people in a building for 4. So I don't know. Atlantic City's close enough to New York. I don't know. I don't know where it would be. I'm trying to think of the cities at that time. They had already done New York, Chicago, LA, and Detroit. So I don't even know where WrestleMania could be. It could be in Boston, could be in Philly, could be back in LA again. They could go back to Chicago. They could go back to the Garden if they wanted to do that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know where 4 or 5 would be. It just depends. There was no precedent yet, set. It was, and plus back then, the only venue that was a really big deal, well, I guess they were all big deals, but I don't think the fans cared much, back then, like which city was going to get it or whatever. So I don't know, but I think it would have had to have been a normal sized arena based on the strength of the cards. Savage and Hogan, as awesome of a main event that was, that ain't Andre and Hogan. That ain't going to draw 100,000, and neither was the tournament. So Vegas would be a good spot. I don't know what what arena they had out there at the time back in '88 in Vegas. If you opened up your own wrestling promotion, would I be a commentator for it? Sure. I need a bus fully loaded. I need Skittles. Pick out all the yellow ones and the green ones. $20K per appearance. Pay for my travel. 4-star hotel only. And pre-match massage. If you can work that out, Jose, I'm in. I am in. My friend today was telling me about how horrible Cena is when he's had some of the best matches of the last decade and a half. Yeah, well, I'm done beating that horse. Everybody knows how I feel about that. Yeah, Cena and Orton and Brock, they were all in OVW together. That was like a crazy class. Shelton was a part of that. It's fucking crazy, man. Only brown M&Ms. No. Yeah, Toronto would have been cool, but they weren't open yet. That was a brand new venue when WrestleMania 6 came there. Yeah, I'd love WrestleMania to go to Charlotte. It's a gamble in that city in terms, like, unless they built a new stadium for the Panthers with a roof on it. Otherwise, I don't think it's I don't think it's too far north to be too cold. Might be chilly in Charlotte around WrestleMania time if you held it there, but I think it's doable. And Charlotte is, was at one time one of the biggest, wrestling hotbeds in the entire world, not only the country, but the entire world. And the fans that still exist there. I remember going, this is about 2018. I went to Asheville and camped with my friends in the mountains. And I flew in on my own. We were all kind of meeting there. And I flew in a little rinky-dink ass airport. And I had to take a cab to go to the rental car place because it was like further away or whatever. So I get into a cab, and sure enough, the hillbilly ass cab driver, he gets in there, and within seconds, I don't even know how it happened, but wrestling was brought up. He's like, oh man, when I was a kid, I used to go to matches and blah, blah, blah. And he just Harley race and I'm like, no matter who you run into in the South, especially in the western part of North Carolina, anybody that's been there, born and raised, and are 30, 40 plus years of age, they're going to know about wrestling. And it was just so cool. I'm like, that is a great area for wrestling to be. So I think Charlotte would be a great city to have WrestleMania in. If they put it there, I'd be there for sure. I think it's long overdue, but they need a roof, man. They need a roof. Plus that Bank of America Stadium, where the fuck the Panthers play, it's a pretty old place now, I think. I think they're trying to build something new. I remember hearing years ago that they wanted to do a deal where they built the Panthers stadium where the 50-yard line is on the border of North and South Carolina. That's pretty cool. They should try to do that, I think. But we'll see. Who's worried about locations? I don't think anybody's really worried. We don't worry on this podcast, Ronnie. There's no worrying going on here. We're cool. It's like somebody told me earlier about like crying. I'm like, I'm not crying, just pointing out something. It's not crying. Total big difference. It's good to see you, Crusher. We're doing well here. You'll buy a ticket a whole year ahead for Charlotte. That's nice. You're already living there too. 40 minutes away. Yeah, I will have to be making a trip and buying the hotels and stuff. I just booked my North Carolina trip for late July. I'm going to be there at the end of July and early August for a week at the beach visiting my friends. So I will be in Kakalaki for the first time since a year before the pandemic. So I'm overdue for a trip. I don't know what you mean about the Austin thing, Connor. You mean called, if it's the promo, he cut it himself. He just, he came up with that on his own. The Austin 316 thing. But it was just it was a random thing. He just happened to be feuding with Jake Roberts, who at the time was doing that born-again Christian shit, and it just worked out that he was able to say that. If he'd been feuding with anybody else, he couldn't say that if he was feuding with Vader or Mark Marrow, who he also was. He wouldn't have been able to say that. So it just worked out. It's just like stars aligning, perfect setup, right place, right time, right thing to be said, right opponent, right scenario, and it doesn't always work that way. So Austin got very, very lucky in that whole situation. Had Jake not even been in the tournament or lost, and it would have been Vader in the finals, totally different situation. But even without Austin 316, that was still a hell of a promo. It was. Even if you take out that line, he still cut a good promo. And I think fans would have taken notice regardless. But, man, they made some money off that T-shirt, man. Jesus. Yeah, Atlanta is another city because they just built a brand new, beautiful facility that the Falcons play in. So, and 27 was trash, and now it's been 11 years since they've been back there. But we already know where the next few are going to be. We don't have WrestleMania 40 set up yet. 40, I think, is either going to be back in MetLife. I said earlier I'd like 40 to be like at MetLife, and I hate it being up there. It's too fucking cold. I don't know why the Jets and the Giants did not put a roof on their damn stadium, but that's the breaks. And I'm not a fan of it being in New York just because of the weather issues that you can have. But 40 would be pretty cool to be there, especially if they could book it the way they did the Raw 25 show, to where they have the big stadium show, but they do a side show at MSG. Wouldn't that be cool? I'd be one of the talents that wants to wrestle on the MSG show. I would do everything in my power to say, please put me on the MSG card. I don't care that I'm not in front of 80,000 fans, I can do that next year. I want to say I wrestled a WrestleMania match in Madison Square Garden. That's a short list. So there's only been 3 that have been there before. They didn't go there for 30. And I think if they did a combo type of thing, because you got a lot of world champions now, so you got a Universal Champion, a Raw Champion, SmackDown, Raw, all this stuff. You can put a couple of title matches on that MSG show. I don't think any talent would feel slighted. At least I hope they wouldn't. I hope they would appreciate, the significance of that. And they'd actually prefer to be on the Madison Square Garden show. It wouldn't be a step down, it'd be a step up. So I think a combo thing for 40 would be awesome for New York. If not, they might go back to New Orleans because they were there for 30, so they might return there for 40. Or Vegas. People talked about Vegas a lot as well. So Vegas, I'd prefer it in Vegas because I could go. It's a 5 or 6 hour drive from me. If it was in New York, I don't know if I'd want to deal with the fucking city and go in there. I'd almost prefer Vegas just for convenience sake if I'm going to go. But I think in terms of history, a combo show with the Garden would be cool for WrestleMania 40. And then after that, then we can talk Atlanta. Minnesota's got a brand new facility as well. I think Ford Field deserves another WrestleMania. If Charlotte can either convince WWE to come to that city, to the Queen City, and maybe, I don't know, maybe do something with, maybe when Ric Flair passes away or something, they could do some nice sort of Ric Flair themed WrestleMania or something. I don't know. But there's definitely some cities. Vegas, Minneapolis, Atlanta are kind of the big ones right now. And then Dallas and the new one in LA here is coming. Oh, yeah. And speaking of WrestleMania 27, I saw that on the Miz 24 documentary that was also very good. You know how I just said earlier that I didn't know about Seth Rollins passing out at WrestleMania 35? I also didn't know about Miz cracking his head open at WrestleMania 27. Didn't even know that really happened. So that was all new to me, too. I didn't know that he got a concussion in that match. And when you watch that replay back, he did smack the fuck out of his head on the concrete there. Scary stuff. Do you think they might save the double venue in New York for Mania 50? JJ, I don't want to talk about Mania 50 because at Mania 50, I'm going to be like Goldberg's age, and I'd rather not think about that yet. I'm going to be 10 years away from diapers, and no. So let's just pretend Mania 50 doesn't happen. But yeah, something like that, Mania 50 would be awesome. I mean, by then, for sure, well, no, not for sure. Vince could still be with us by WrestleMania 50. He'd be like 86 or 87 years old. I think it's actually pretty likely, actually, that Vince is around for WrestleMania 50 and they wheel his ass out there. Oh my God. At WrestleMania 50, that would be pretty cool. I mean, by then, 11 years from now, maybe they're not doing stadiums anymore, or maybe they can make one exception and actually go back to the Garden and actually just do the entire show there in front of 16,000 people just for Mania 50. But knowing WWE, they're going to want to have a big, huge spectacle. We'll see. WrestleMania 7 WrestleMania 8 was in Indiana. WrestleMania 7 was out here in LA. But 8 was Savage and Flair and Hart versus Piper. That was good stuff. They talked a lot about that Hart and Piper match on the Piper A&E biography, how Brett was like the first guy to pin him in 15 years. Very cool. They did a finish of that match on NXT this week. Drake Maverick, or not Drake Maverick, who the fuck did it? I forgot. Somebody countered out of the full Nelson and tried to pin somebody. Maybe it was Drake. I forgot who the fuck it was now. Send him flying down the ramp. Well, if it's MSG, it's not going to be much of a ramp, especially if they do that short entrance. But if they build a stage, then they'll have a little further to go. Vince will probably power. Even I can see Vince, even if he couldn't walk and he was in a wheelchair, as they're wheeling him, he's going to do the arm thing. How fucking cool would that be? I want Vince to live to be 100 just to watch him do shit like that. Because by the time he's 90, how much pull could he really have? All they got to do is tell him, okay, Vince, we'll do it. And then he'll just probably forget and they'll put him to bed and, give him some applesauce and distract him or something. But I don't know how capable he'll be at that age. Oh, no reason to apologize, Joe. We're not all wrestling dorks like me. It's okay. I hear Vince McMahon will never retire. He probably won't. But I mean, you can't really make that call. If Vince McMahon has some sort of mental decline and he doesn't know his own fucking name, and he's just pulling his pants down and shitting right in the middle of the grocery store, he has to retire. Like, he can't be in charge anymore. So if he loses all his mental faculties, then he's going to be forced out. But as long as he's able and capable, like Jerry Jones in Dallas, that asshole, was 164 years old. He's still calling all the shots there and making all sorts of dumb decisions. So Vince McMahon is probably going to be much the same way. But if he starts really losing his mind, then they might just have to push him out and say, all right, Vince, that's what I worry about. I just, worry there's Alzheimer's and, so many, things like that can happen when you get older. And Vern Gagne, choked out and killed that guy because he had dementia and stuff. So, I mean, if Vince gets dementia, he's going to be, he won't be in the announcer's ear anymore on Monday Night Raw. Put it that way. Oh, man, people in their 80s love to fuck with their lawns and shit, don't they? They love the landscape. It's like their favorite. Yeah, but anyway, well, I hate to leave when we've had our biggest audience of the night, but I think I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now because I got a lot of wrestling to watch tonight. I'm going to watch that Randy Savage A&E biography and get myself all pissed off about that. And then I'm going to watch the Two Dudes with Attitudes WWE Peacock show. So I'm going to check those out tonight, and we'll be talking about those more this week. And then keep lookout here on the channel. I'll make an announcement on the channel once I know, and also follow me on Twitter at Good Mic Work. If I'm able to get up here on Wednesday for Blood and Guts, I'll let you know that. Hopefully I will. Otherwise, I might be up here on Thursday. If I'm not able to be up here Wednesday night, I might pop in Thursday and do a quick little recap of Blood and Guts, maybe. But if not, you're going to see me a day early for the Winged Eagle podcast. This coming weekend is Mother's Day weekend. I've got some family plans. So after SmackDown on Friday, we're doing the Winged Eagle. So we'll talk about NXT, probably Blood and Guts, SmackDown, preview Backlash, all the normal stuff, wrestling news, and all that stuff we normally do on Saturdays. We're going to be doing that Friday night. So that should be fun. Friday after SmackDown, we'll hang out. We'll have some cold ones, and should be a hoot. So that is going to be a wrap for me. Thank you to everybody, especially those of you here at the end, like James and Connor and JC and JJ and James. I got you twice. And Joe, Michael Cuomo, and all you guys. Appreciate you hanging out tonight and just shooting the shit. I like answering some questions and thinking about stuff. That's always fun, especially when we have a Raw that, not loaded with a ton of substance. It's always fun to hang out here and talk about stuff. So it was fun tonight. I appreciate you guys being here with me, and I will talk to you very soon later on this week. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. See you soon. Peace.